Welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman, the podcast dedicated to helping you build the business of your dreams and live the life you always hoped for, with valuable and fun tips and info to make your life easier and more fun. And now, here's your host, a man who sprinkles metal shavings on his breakfast cereal just for fun, Jason Silverman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. I'm your host, Jason Silverman, and I'm thrilled to share some time with you today. As you know, I'm always in the hunt for interesting as well as super smart real deal guests, and I got to tell you, today's show is a winner. I want to introduce my listeners to somebody who's truly been there and done that, and I'm excited to pick her brain for your benefit today. Now, for the folks who I work with in any of my coaching programs, or Powerful Words Character Development, All-Star Cheer Sites, or even the Jason's Army Mastermind Group, you know how much I focus on the importance of running a business that you love and one that's love-based, correct? Well, the show is going to help us to do just that. So today it's going to be my honor and privilege to share an amazing resource with you. You're going to love today's guest. She's got a ton of valuable and real-world info about something that I consider to be really one of those missing topics in most of our educational experiences. So today's show is going to be a blast. As I'm sure you already know, I'm committed to helping business owners just like you to become more successful, enjoy your career more, and in general, make your life significantly more fun. We only get one ride on this merry-go-round, so let's make sure it's one hell of a ride. Alrighty, boys and girls, it is now that time. I want you to stop surfing Facebook, put away your phone, your tablet, your dog, your cat, your spouse, anything that might possibly distract you from today's show. You're about to get some great and immediately implementable information, and I don't want you to miss even a second of it. So, before we officially get going, let me give you a little bit of background about our special guest expert today. Michele PW is the best-selling author of the Love-Based Business series of books that teaches people how to build a business they love and that loves them back, and the owner of the Love-Based Copywriting and Marketing company that provides done-for-you services to help entrepreneurs attract more clients and boost their business. You can check out tons of free resources to help you build a love-based business and live a love-based life on her blog, including the Love-Based Money podcast and a love-based business kit over at www.lovebasedbiz.com. That's LOVEBASEDBIZ.com. Michele, welcome to The Real Deal. I'm thrilled to have you today.
Well, thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here, too.
Yay. Well, listen, before we get started, for those who haven't yet had the opportunity and pleasure of meeting you or hearing you speak or reading your books, take a second, if you would, and share your story with our listeners. What are you passionate about? What makes you tick? Who is Michele PW?
How long do we have?
You just keep on going.
So I started off life as I guess I'm passionate about writing. I taught myself to read when I was 3 years old because I wanted to write stories so badly. And, excuse me, I got a little cough. And then when I got into high school, I was casting around for something to do while I wrote my books. And, everyone kept saying, why don't you be a journalist? And I'm like, ugh, it's the last thing I want to be. So then, so I still kept looking. And finally I was in college when I kind of fell into this whole, realm of copywriting, which is not, to be clear, this is not about protecting intellectual property. So that's all lawyers and government and other unpleasant things. What copywriting is, and it's spelled COPYWRITING, is writing promotional materials for business. And the deeper I got into it, I realized that there's actually different types of copywriting. And one of the things that I chose to specialize in is something called direct response copywriting, which is a way to leverage your marketing and your sales. So basically, direct response copywriting is, what it does is it does the work for you. It makes sales for you. So those are the pieces of copy that you get, like an email that says, click here, click on this link. You go to a page and it says, put in your name and email address for a free something, or you're scrolling down forever those long sales pages, thinking to yourself, how much is this stupid thing? And does anybody read these things anyways? All of that is considered direct response. And what it is, it's really a way of creating, like a sales force that doesn't require, eating, sleeping, vacation time, commissions, all of that other great stuff. So it's really a good thing. The problem is that a lot of, and you might have felt the same thing. You might have run into some of this sales copy over the years and really felt like it was very manipulative, very salesy, very slimy, very inauthentic, and just, really didn't like it. And as if you were, and if you're looking to use it in a business, you may not have wanted to use, even though that's what you've been told that you should use, you didn't want to use it because it felt this way. And then, of course, the problem is that if you don't use it, like what I said before, it's all about leverage. So if you don't use it, you're severely hampering yourself because you have to do all the work yourself. You have to go out and get all the leads yourself. You have to follow up by yourself. And then, of course, once you get the sale, you need to actually, do the work. So it really just, if you don't use direct response copy and marketing in your business, you are kind of destined to stay small. I mean, it's going to be really, really hard for you to grow without it. So it was kind of really a horrible choice, either use the salesy, slimy, inauthentic sounding stuff or not grow. But that was really what the choice was for a long time. And then, and which is why where I came into the picture, because I had all these friends that were saying to me about 10 years ago, Michele, why don't you come up with a new way of writing copy that works and doesn't sound so salesy and inauthentic and slimy? And I said, and they gave me names, like they called it conscious copywriting and attraction copywriting, but I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to create like an other. I wanted to change the direct response copywriting industry. And quite honestly, I also fought them anyways because I kind of felt like, well, there's all these great copywriting books out there already. What can I add to it? But eventually, in 2014, I was working with a friend of mine, and she had a book that she came out with, Love-Based Marketing. And I looked at that, and I thought love-based copywriting, and I thought, well, what's the reverse of love-based copywriting? The opposite, and it's fear-based copywriting. And that's when the whole kind of philosophy downloaded into me. So now I'm kind of on a quest to go out there and teach, because the more I've taught this, the more I realize how just everything we've created, a lot of it is created kind of on this foundation of fear, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm really out educating. That's how I kind of look at it. This is I'm educating people on the choice that you can choose to build things on love or you can choose to build things on fear. And it's your choice. Both are valid, but I want to kind of teach you both ways so that you can make an informed decision.
I love this. I love everything about what you're saying. After spending so many years ingrained in the direct response world and coming out with the whole yuck factor, this sounds fabulous. So I'm pretty excited to dig in.
Yeah, and the reason why we kind of got into the love and fear is all emotions fall under love and fear, love or fear, not one or the other. So it's not the opposite of love isn't hate, really. The opposite of love is actually fear. And when you want to tap, it doesn't really matter we are every day we are trying to talk somebody into doing something. So, you can look at direct response copy or sales, something that you're doing because you want to, persuade somebody to buy from you. And that can feel, to some people, that can already feel like you're manipulating them. But if you really want to be truthful, our everyday existence, we're trying to manipulate somebody. If you really want to look at it that way, I mean, every time you try to get your kids to go to bed at a certain hour, you're trying to persuade them. I prefer not to use the word manipulating, but there's an element of persuasion going on all the time in our daily lives. And if you want to impact somebody's action, you have to tap into their emotions. So you can tap into fear-based emotions or love-based emotions. It's your choice. But that's kind of how this whole thing sort of came about. It's just simply part of the way we communicate. Are you communicating because you're tapping into fear-based emotions or love-based emotions?
That's so interesting. Well, I want to kind of dig in if you're open to it.
Yes, of course.
So, tell me this. I feel like you've laid the tracks nicely on this, but what exactly, like specifically, is love-based copy? And actually, in the same note, you talked about fear, and I get that, and obviously I've learned that aspect. Why do you feel that love-based copy is better than fear-based copy?
So why do I? Okay, so I guess I'll answer the second one first. Why I feel like love-based copy is better than fear. It's because to me, fear. To me, what's going on with fear. Sorry about that. So to me, what's going on with fear is when you build something with fear, it can work in the short term. So I don't want to give the impression that you can't actually build a business and make money using fear. You absolutely can. And in some cases, in some ways, it's almost easier because because fear is very strong, and you can tap, and especially what a lot of times what you see in traditional direct response copy or traditional sales is you tapping into shame, this whole area of if you're really serious about whatever, building your business, losing weight, you're going to, you would jump on this. And if you don't jump on this, then you're not that serious. That kind of level of kind of shame, the fear, kind of just worsening into people's head, like what the worst possible thing absolutely could be, and tapping into that fear that it's going to happen unless they take advantage of it. It's a very powerful emotion. And because so many people are uncomfortable feeling their fear, it's easy to tap into it and use that as a way to change behavior, to access behavior. So that's why fear works. Now, but the problem is that when you bring people in with fear, then that's where buyer's remorse can come in, because once sort of like the initial fear wears off, then then that's when they start to question, because they probably just bought. In fact, in a lot of cases, when you use fear to get somebody to come in, they're buying because it's a way to make themselves feel better. You've touched on their fear, and so to make themselves feel better, they've actually bought your product. So then they have the buyer's remorse kicks in later. That because now it's kind of like when you take if you whatever you do to escape the fear-based emotions, like if you have a couple too many drinks of alcohol, if you have that entire carton of Rocky Road ice cream, you go on a buying spree, you start an argument, all of those sort of knee-jerk behaviors that we engage in to kind of distract ourselves from feeling our fear-based emotions. After we've actually distracted ourselves and come around, there's usually a level of remorse and guilt. But it's no different than buying. So this is why you end up with all these people with sort of buyer's remorse, and you can have a higher refund rate because of that. You probably have also heard that, some people saying that if you don't have there are some gurus out there that teach if you don't have a 10% refund rate, you're not selling hard enough. And while I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, and it's an interesting way to look at refund rates as another perspective, so you're not afraid of it. On the other hand, what's really happening is you're selling so much that at least 10% of the people who bought never should have bought in the first place. And and how many more of those people who also shouldn't have bought, but were sort of manipulated into buying, but aren't going to refund. You're kind of banking on that kind of higher level. So your refund rate will be higher, and then the other thing that will be higher, because you're tapping into fear, and you will have more people than buying than really really need your product or are looking for your product. There's going to be a higher level of dissatisfaction. So it will over time hurt your brand, because it will cause an erosion, because these are the people who are going to complain about your product. Maybe they won't refund, but maybe they'll simply, complain about it or tell other people about it. Or maybe they won't say a word unless somebody asks, and then they'll kind of tell them in secret. But really, how many of these people out there does it take before you really start having an erosion of your brand? So that's why fear is a problem. Conversely, with love, when you bring people in because people are educating, you're educating and then you're stepping back and letting people make a decision. This is how you attract like your really strong fans. You'll have a lower refund rate. I'm not going to say you're going to have a zero refund rate because that's just not possible. But it will be lower. And in some cases it will be zero, but if you do get refunds every now and then, that is just kind of mistakes happen. This is where you're going to get your fans who will love you, love what you're about, will tell everybody about you. This is how things will grow. Even if you do, everyone is going to run into, clients that are not a good fit. But people who have built strong love-based businesses, they're the ones that have a very high respect in the industry, and they've got a lot of trust built, inherent trust. So even if there's a lot of trust and respect in that. So that's what you have for doing when you do the love-based. In terms of how it sounds, part of what you're really doing is love-based copy is really, it's not that and I can teach kind of some of the foundational pieces of it, but to me, it's a lot of it has to do with your come from. This is like actually one of the foundational pieces. If you are coming from a place of educating and letting people make their own decisions on whether or not they want to move forward to you, that energy is it's going to feel different, the copy, than fear-based copy, which is going to sound very pursuing and manipulative, and there might even be an element of desperation in it.
That's really interesting.
So it's really about when you read it, that's really where some of the differences is that it feels better. It feels like you are, sort of treating people like grown-ups and adults and letting them make their own decisions, which again is also can be scary because a lot of fear-based, we all have, I shouldn't say we all, many of us have control issues, and it's very scary for us to let go of control, and which is another reason why fear-based plays right into it, because you try to control the other person unconsciously, of course. But love-based is really about you relinquishing control and you letting your, having a conversation, educating, and then stepping back and letting your ideal prospect make the decision whether or not they want to work with you or not. And that can be a very scary place to be, especially if you really, really, really need the money. So it can be terrifying to do that. But if you can at the end of the day, you can end up building a much more solid, respectful, trust-filled business than doing it the other way.
Well, it's the difference between chasing the dollars and chasing, the result.
Exactly.
So, what are you said this is one of the foundational pieces. What are the other foundational pieces you got to have in place?
So the three foundational pieces that is really a good place to get started is, first of all, to know particularly who your ideal clients are, and specifically who your ideal clients are. And and I like ideal clients better than target market or niche market, because to me, target market and niche markets are very externally based. And like kind of demographics, and ideal client is really about, to me, internal, like values, almost psychographics, but even deeper than that, really getting to know what your ideal, what their values are, what's keeping them up at night, what their secret wishes are. Really get to know them as you would a friend. Because part of really one of the other keys that I've really found is that the more you can inject passion into your copy, passion, one of the things that fear-based copy uses to get people to buy is a lot of, fake urgency. Well, it might not even be so fake, but it could be over the top urgency. Maybe that's a better way to say it, because they still will put deadlines in. And deadlines in and of themselves is not fear-based. But when you make it really very over the top and hypey, and you know what I mean? Like that when it's all that focus on it. So fear-based obviously taps into fear of missing out, fear of letting this thing slip through, all of that. It's tapping into that. That's what it's using to get people to buy right now. So if you don't tap into that, so what's the way that you can kind of get, what's that way you can inject urgency without making it over the top in faith? Well, one of the ways to do that is to use passion. Because that's what a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for passion. They're passionate about transforming their life. They're passionate about, whatever it is that they want, the solution that they're looking for. So if you can tap into that passion, that emotion, that's going to really help. So, and one of the ways that you can do that is to really get to know who your ideal client is. Because if you know who they are, you can talk to them as you would a friend. I mean, you can really write like a love letter to them. So that's the first. And then the second thing is to really understand, what's keeping them up tonight or their pain. And I don't particularly think pain is necessarily fear-based. I think pain is actually love-based. I mean, because, in our life, there are people who are born that can't feel physical pain. And those people tend to not live very long because pain is a way that your body lets you know that there is a problem. So if your body can't tell you there's a problem, then, you could die. So pain has a place. And, we need pain. Pain helps us grow emotionally. Pain helps us grow spiritually. It is a part of our life. Now, suffering is not. Suffering is when it takes place in your head, and it's usually when your fear-based emotions gets involved and you start worrying or you start getting angry or something else, and you kind of magnify the pain. And that's what fear-based copy and marketing really does, is it magnifies the pain and turns it into suffering. So I'm not saying that you should do that, but definitely acknowledging in a respectful manner people's pain is definitely part of love-based, because quite honestly, your ideal prospects are in pain. Because if they weren't in pain, then they wouldn't need what you have. But they are in pain, and to not respectfully acknowledge that is very disrespectful, actually, because they are in pain and they're looking for a solution. So it's kind of like the right way to use pain and the right way to address it and not turn it into suffering. And the last one is really that mindset piece, or the come from. Because if you personally are caught in fear, and this is be gentle with yourself. We've all been there. This is not about judgment or making you feel bad or beating yourself up. This is about you just understanding so you can move forward. But if you really, really, really need money to come in the door, it's very, very hard to come from this from a matter of, being, committed but not attached, because you're afraid. So then you want to attach to the outcome. You want to attach to the sale. Attached to the money coming in. And once you get attached like that to a very particular specific result, that's where slipping into fear-based, tactics becomes very easy, because you yourself are in fear. So what I like to try and recommend you to do is, first off, I don't want you to not feel your fear-based emotions. That's absolutely not what I'm saying to do. But there is a time and place for everything. And when you're getting ready to write your copy, or you're getting ready to get on a sales call, I would encourage you to take a minute and really just, put your fear-based emotions aside as much as you can. Put the feelings of scarcity, and do what you can to really get into an abundance, love-based mindset, at least for the next hour or whatever it takes for you to do what you need to do, and then you can go back to feeling the fear-based emotions. But gratitude is a good way to do it. Affirmations, going outside and grounding yourself. But as much as you can, to just temporarily, switch your mindset around. That I think that would really help to actually come from this from a love-based perspective.
Tell me, I feel like we learn from other people's mistakes, hopefully. What would you say is the biggest mistake you've seen people make when they try to start moving into the love-based copy mindset?
Oh, that's a really juicy one. I think one of the biggest mistakes is they slip back into fear. And it's for a variety of reasons. One of them is they start doing the love-based, and it doesn't really work, or at least they're perceiving that it's not working. So then they feel a little desperate, and so they slip back into fear, and then the whole thing gets screwed up, and then nothing works. So the thing is that you have to kind of pick a horse and ride it. So if you want to do fear-based, then do fear-based. If you want to do love-based, then do love-based, but you can't do both. You can't just flip-flop between them. That's just confusing, and it doesn't work. And it tends to mess everything up. So the way to do it is to, if you're going to commit, then commit. Now, that doesn't mean if you slip up and make a mistake, you can't recover. That's not what this means at all. But what this means is, as best you possibly can, stay in love base as much as you can. And so there's a certain amount of trust and there's a certain amount of surrender that needs to happen, because the reality is, it may be slower, than you want. So you have to trust that all is well, and it's all going to end well, even if right now it doesn't look exactly the way you want it to look. And that's what I mean about not being attached to a certain outcome, because the more attached you are to something looking precisely the way that you want it to look, that's when things can get messed up. So like if you're doing a launch and you want 20 sales and only 5 have come in, and the launch is ending tomorrow, and at this point you wanted to have at least 10 or 15, that can be a problem. That can make you feel very panicky. So the way to do it, though, is if you, and that's when a lot of people switch into fear and switch into other things to try to get more sales. And then what typically happens is everything gets messed up, and you don't get the sales that you want. So a better way to do that is to trust the process, and then just know that there's lots of ways money can come to you. And just because they don't come to you in this launch, maybe this launch you aren't going to get 20 sales. Maybe you are only going to get 5 or 7. But then what happens is 2 days after your launch ends, because you've stayed in a love-based way, you get a VIP client, and that's more than enough money than what having 20 sales in the launch would have brought you. But if you had slipped to fear, you would have missed that client. So that's what I mean about trusting the process and trusting and surrendering to however things show up.
Totally makes sense. All right. It is time for our resource of the week. So, Michele, tell me this. How can my listeners find out more about you and how you're helping entrepreneurs to succeed worldwide?
So my blog, lovebasedbiz.com, that's really what it is. It's really about giving you the tools and tactics to really dig in and how you can do that love-based business, love-based marketing, love-based copywriting, the whole bit. And you have a podcast, and I have a web TV show, and then I also have a free book there that you can download, which is How to Start a Business You Love and That Loves You Back. So that's also on the blog as well.
So that's at www.lovebasedbiz.com. That's LOVEBASEDBIZ.com, correct?
Yep.
Perfect. Folks, after this podcast, get out there, go download that book, watch the videos, listen to the podcast. Again, this is a different way of getting fabulous results that, allows you to put your head down on the pillow at night. So, pretty darn important. So, Michele, I always like to end my podcast with one, what I consider to be a telling question. So, if you could give business owners just one solid piece of advice to either help their business or, more importantly, help them to live a better life, what would that piece of advice be?
To not compare where they're at and where they perceive other people are. So it's so easy for us to look, especially with social media. We get online and we say, oh my God, everybody else is so farther along than I am, and what's wrong with me? And the reality is that, I've been blessed that I do work behind the scenes with a number of very successful entrepreneurs and also ones that, you haven't heard from. I've worked with famous successful ones and not so famous ones. And the reality is that you have no idea what's going on under the hood. They could be a total hot mess. You really don't know. And so, I've known people who were posting in front of, pictures in front of the Ritz-Carlton while they're filing bankruptcy papers and actually throwing their team members under the bus because they couldn't pay them. So, you really don't know what's going on. Now that's a dramatic case, but the point is comparing yourself. And I have to remind myself of this too. It's a pointless activity. So, and all it does is take energy away from other people, and you are in the perfect place, and just put your head down and keep moving one step forward at a time. And that's all you can do.
I love it. I love it. Michele, thank you so much for joining me today. I know how busy your schedule is, and I truly appreciate you carving out some time for us and sharing some wisdom. This has been fabulous.
Well, thank you for having me. I love sharing this.
Absolutely. The pleasure is ours. Folks, that is all the time we've got today. Thanks so much for tuning into The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. For more info about private coaching or to see if you benefit from one of my mastermind groups, visit me over at www.jasonmsilverman.com. I look forward to helping you achieve the success that you truly deserve. Until next time, let me leave you with this. Get out there and be the real deal. Set a goal, make a plan, work like hell towards it, and achieve the success that's waiting for you. Now's the time. Get out there and make it happen. This has been Jason Silverman, and I hope you have a spectacular week.
You've been listening to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. To access the great resources mentioned in the show and for information on coaching and mastermind group opportunities with Jason, please visit jasonmsilverman.com.